So today I'm going to work on this Synology NAS. Now I don't actually know if I can fix this or not. We'll find out by the time we get to the end of the video. I think it could be quite involved, we'll see. I'll demonstrate what's going on. I'll turn the power on. And as you can see, the light is flashing fast here. Fast pulses. This is actually normal when it's first booting up. So you could actually see that that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But it should stop doing that after a while and the status light should come up green and your LAN should show up and your disk should show up and stuff like that. Now this apparently failed probably about 3 months ago and it wasn't actually noticed because this is just running as a backup drive, so there's Time Machine backups running this from a few different computers. And apparently those backups haven't been happening for a while. I just found out about this. This isn't my system, it's somebody else's. This is what it's doing. So if I have the disks in here, disks don't show up, status LED stays off. If I have the LAN connected, then the LAN will come up. I'll actually plug this in, I can show you that. I'll plug in the LAN, I happen to have one here, and so LAN comes up, that's flickering away, LAN shows activity, but otherwise it looks like this. So this could be a sign of a problem with the hard drive, it could be a sign of a problem with the power supply and that kind of thing, but I've already eliminated those things. I've tried it in power supply, no difference. I'll slide the front panel off. I've already taken hard drives out, no difference. This is the situation right now. The fan is spinning and we've got a flashing blue LED. No matter what I do, it does that. Now I've actually already pulled this thing out of the casing and measured some voltages around the circuit board. Voltages appear to be checking out. I can see a 5 volt, 3.3 volt, 1.8 volt and 1 volt rail. They seem normal. I've gone around and checked capacitors for any shorts in case there's a cracked capacitor which is shorted out a rail, which I'm not detecting normally. Checked every single ceramic capacitor, no shorts. From what I can tell, it's a software issue or firmware issue. There's other versions of these NASs, like the other models, which are known to having firmware issues, and the firmware will get corrupted and it won't do exactly the same thing as this. So I'm believing that it's a firmware problem. I can't find the firmware for it. However, all is not lost because of this. It just so happens I own exactly the same NAS. Well, this is one of them. I've got two NAS. This one is not actually configured for anything yet. It has been used briefly, but I needed to get a bigger hard drive for it, so I never really used it. I've configured it and used it a little bit. I had almost no usage on it. I've had this thing for a few years now. I think this is actually purchased about the same time as this one. They're the same age. I actually think that what I can do is take this one apart, assuming I can find the flash chip, copy the flash from this, assuming I can read the chip, and reflash the chip in here, assuming it all works. I think that might be an option, so we're going to try that. So the first thing to do is take this board back out again, for like the third time. Been doing various testing and just trying different things out. Nothing's been ruled out yet, but anyway, we'll just keep going. It's only 4 screws to get the casing out, the chassis out of it. It's not exactly a big deal. And you've got a wire that goes to the power button which you need to unplug, and I can then try and find the flash chip. It is a double-sided board. There's stuff on both sides and it's got the metal here in the way. I'm not too worried about that. There's the cable. I've already had that unplugged once, so the tape's all torn. Right, that can go. Right, where's the flash chip? I think I did see it before. Let's try and find it. It's a pick. It's not what you want. There's a MOSFET. This mother probably power supply system. Probably a switching controller. What's that one? Get the light on it right where we can see it. It's not too bad there, you can see it, but I can't read it. Ah, here we go. 25L6433F. 25L6433F. So 25L tells me it's a flash. This is what we're looking for. And another thing which could be useful, over here there's a 6-pin header. Now I did find references to 6-pin headers on some web pages, someone mentioned it, and also the pinouts as well. So this is a serial header, I believe. So I think we can actually hook up to this to get serial communication with the PIC, which happens to be right next to it. Bit coincidental, isn't it? So I think we can actually monitor the system and find out what's happening when it's booting. That may tell us what's going on. We could try that and see if we can get any serial communication out of that. That could be interesting. Okay, so there's not that socket there for the communication for the data. There's another 6-pin header over here, right there. That's the communication for the data there. So pin 1 is 3.3 volts. Pin 4 was the communication. So when you boot it up, if I stick this on the pin 4, which you guys can't see, but it's pin 4 right there, and I turn the power off, let it drop down, reboot it. Yep, I'm sending data on that one. Yep, that's definitely a transmit system. That pin there, I need to probe to read the serial communications to try and see what's going on with the data. Okay, so I also need to find the ground, which shouldn't be too hard. Let's do that. Let's hook this up to my test system and see if we can find out what's going on. So this is the output from the serial. As you can see, we've got the serial information right here. That's what it spat out as it's booting up. Got all the way down here, and it's got verify checksum bad data CRC, RAM disk images corrupt or invalid. So yes, as expected, there's a memory problem. So I need to look at this a bit more detail, but I think cloning that chip might do the job, if I'm lucky. Alright, so I've taken the chip off the board, I've put it into this adapter, so now I can put this into my data RAM programmer, read it, save what I've got, and then repeat the process for the other board, or the other unit, take the chip off that, read that one, and see what differences actually are. One thing I've got to be careful of is it does seem to have a CRC in there, so that may be a problem. Might have to try and see if I can recreate that. I don't know about that yet, but it might require some effort. If I just clone it, we'll end up with two devices with the same MAC address. Whether or not that matters, I don't know. If on different networks, but it might be affecting like the Synology lookups, like online stuff. That may matter for that. But anyway, we'll start with this. Read this chip first. So I'll just remove the other chip from the working unit. There it is there. So I'm going to back this chip up, and then I will look at what differences there are between the two chips. The content should be the same if they're running the same version at least. I'll do some comparisons, see what the differences are. I found what the serial number is on this chip, so I've already got a copy of that. I can't find a MAC address though, which is the interesting part. So I'm going to see if I can find a MAC address on this one instead. Now interestingly, the chip in the bad one is a 6433F. The chip in here is a 6406E. Surprised they're different. So I've just fitted the chip from the good NAS into the dodgy one. We're going to see if swapping that chip will fix it. It may be something else, it may not even be that chip, but we'll find out. It's a good position to start from. So we need to see if the actual LEDs are going to light up and stuff like that. So actually think about it, I was going to put this on so we can see what's going on with the indicators and stuff like that. See if it's actually working. Let's try it again. I'll plug the switch in as well so it's flashing now. Let's see what happens. See if it's in life. I'll keep recording I think. This may or may not work. If it stops flashing or it beeps or indicators change, then we'll be lucky. Oh, look at that. Starts light flashing, blue light stop flashing. We got it. And it beeped. That's booted. Excellent. So yes, that confirms it is that chip which is bad. Right. I've got some options now then. Bit of messing around, but it's an options. Let's shut that down again. I could copy this from this chip onto the bad one and change the serial number and the MAC address. I did find where the MAC address was. Actually, I'll show you in a photo. Let me grab it. 7D0000. That's where the MAC address starts. That's the MAC address there. 85 is actually the last character of the MAC address. So 9C is the checksum. The next line down, or we'll skip one line, the next one down, this is serial number. As it says here, SN. Right, there's a serial number part. Also the checksum, but it's in plain text, which is easy to work out. If I just copy the existing code from the original chip, which is intact, into this section and rewrite that chip, it might work. Or the checksum's still going to be bad. I've been trying to figure out what the checksum is, how to work the checksum out, and I can't find any matches within the code itself for what the checksum actually is. Because normally if you've got a checksum, it will write itself to it within a certain range. I don't know where that is yet. I haven't figured that bit out. I don't really know enough about this sort of stuff to be able to do that. There's a checksum in there, obviously, because it is finding a checksum match. But I'm going to start with writing that code, modifying that data, and seeing if that fixes it. Might do. So I was going to refit the original chip, the good working chip, back into the good working NAS. I'm going to do that now, so I can put this one away again. We've finished playing with that part. We've got the important bit out, which is the chip. So I've transferred it back off that other board, obviously. So now we can drop it back into here. got some flux in there already. Trying to warm the board up before I put the chip straight onto it. Don't want to cook the chip. Yep, that's in place. I'll let it cool down a bit, then I'll clean it up. Then we'll carry on with the broken one. Well, let's try booting up what should be my good working drive. We'll try booting that up and make sure it still works, just in case we created a new problem. So as long as this stops flashing, the status light comes on and it beeps, then that should be good again. It's at least working with drives. Status light's flashing, that's gone blue. Should beep in a second. Great, that's working fine. So we haven't killed that one. So there's my dial-a-RAM programmer there with the chip in there. Just programming it right now. It's currently doing a verification. Oh, failed verification. 12% in. That's not a good sign. I might program it again. It could be a bad chip. Well, I've now tried reseating the chip and running this a couple of times, and I'm still getting the same error in this block here. So, yep, I think the chip is bad. So I've put the chip in again for now, just for the time being, so I don't lose it. I've ordered some new chips. They'll arrive eventually. I don't know yet if it's the programmer or whether it's the chip which is the problem. It's probably the chip, because it was like one block of data, which is bad. So I think the chip has failed. When I get a new chip and I program that, it will hopefully work. The only thing I'm still not sure about is the checksum. I need to figure that part out. That may be something I require some help with if it doesn't work. If I program the new chip and I have the same problem with programming, then I'll try one of other programmers, because I've got a few different ones I could potentially use. But I'm pretty sure it's a chip. It's half programmed. It's tried to program it. I might actually just power it up and see if anything happens. See if anything different. What could go wrong? Well, let's try powering it up with that chip which may or may not be programmed. Don't know. Fan spins. Lights flashing. So on the working NAS, I had to push the power button to turn it on. Whether that's related or not, don't know. Let's just see if anything else is different on this one now. I've half programmed that chip. Who knows, maybe it'll work around the problem. I don't know.
A few moments later.
Obviously it's not going to show any discs because there's no discs installed. I do not want to install any discs whilst I've got these issues, in case it does something and then destroys the partitions or something. Yeah, you have the unit booted by now. So the status LED come on by now. That had stopped flashing and it beeped. So I'm pretty sure that bad block on the chip is what's causing this problem. It can't read it properly, and that's why it can't do this. Now the section is actually marked the Linux system. When it starts to launch the operating system is when it's crashed, and that's when it's failing. So it starts to load Linux and then it dies. It's that partition, it's that section of the chip which is bad.
One eternity later.
So new chips have arrived. We can program these. I actually had two different chips I could use. I'm going to go with the original. I'm going to go with the original chips, so exactly the same model as the one I've currently got in here. I could have done with the other one, which is the same as the other unit I've got, which I grabbed the flash from in order to do the testing. Alright, so there's the chip and the adapter there, ready to go into the programmer. So I'm going to pop the chip into the programmer. So pin 1 is the top one, so it's got to sit like this, which is a bit awkward for this lever, but that's what we've got. I'll open it up a little bit and try and get it lined up. These adapters weren't meant for this thing, that's why they're a bit awkward. Okay, so the chip is in there, pin 1 is up there, programmer's in. So I've just got to boot the programmer up, get it powered up and get the program going. Software is up and running. I've got the firmware loaded up. This is the one which I've modified to try and fix that issue with the MAC address and the serial number being different between the two NASs, obviously. This will hopefully work. I tried to write this on the original chip and I couldn't write it, so I'm hoping this will write now. So I've got this chip installed, so we should be able to write this buffer. Right, so we can close that. So let's try and program in a device. So it should automatically detect all the right information. Special options are not doing any kind of protection or anything like that. Hopefully the original didn't have that anyway, I think it did. I don't know about these other settings. I'm just going to use default stuff. and see how that goes. Okay, let's program it. So it's written the file, and now it's checking that what it's reading back matches the file. Now this is where it's failing last time. I was trying to rewrite the original chip. It would fail at a certain point. I can't remember which percentage it was now, but you get a certain level and then it would fail because the data didn't match what's in the buffer. So I'm hoping that this time that doesn't happen. If it gets to 100% and passes, then we're good. And hopefully then it will just work inside the NAS. We'll find out. Writing the device doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work, because I transferred the NAS information from one to the other and basically copy the rest of the code. It may be affecting a checksum if there's a checksum across the whole flash. However, the serial number and the MAC address had their own checksums, so I'm hoping that it's per block rather than per flash. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. If it's per block, it should be okay. We've certainly got a lot further than it did last time. Program device okay. So it passed, that's great. Don't need to repeat anything. So it's programmed, that's it. That should be all I need to do. Let's try putting it in the actual NAS and see what happens. There's the flash chip, let's take it back off. I've changed the nozzles since last time, so it might be a bit harder to get it off. I was doing some finer work. There we go. So that's the faulty chip. So what I'll do actually, bit of fresh flux, and we shall put this down. The orientation is correct. Right, let's power this up and see if the indicators change from what they were before. Don't forget this was just flashing blue constantly, and we never actually got anything up here. Now the drive isn't installed obviously, I just want to power it up as it is and see if that blue flashing goes away or there's a change in indicators. If there is, then it's probably successful and I'll put the drive in. Power it up. Fan spinning. Blue light is flashing, let's see what happens. Hey, look, here we go. Got indicator LEDs go up here, blue light stop flashing. That looks like it's probably fixed. And it beeped. There we go, it's booted. I'm going to power this back down again. I've got no drive anyway, so I'll just turn the power off. I'll put a drive in and we'll test it and see if it actually works properly. NAS is back together. Let's power it up again. And we should see the disk activity, or disk light will come on. I don't have a LAN connected, although I could, but this has got the same IP address as the NAS on my own network, so I don't want to have two devices with the same IP address obviously, so I don't want to put this on my network if I can avoid it. But we should get a disk show up, and here we go. Disk 2, that's spun up. Here we go. Well, it's booted. It's still got a flashing status LED. I may have to plug this into the computer just to check it. just to make sure it is okay and hasn't got any issues. It's a bit hard doing it blind. I think I'm going to have to. Well, this is what I've got when I go to the IP address of this thing. It thinks the disk is from a different disk station, so it's detected that the firmware is not quite right. Got device info here, but I mean, I'm not worried about losing data on the drives. It's only used for backups anyway, so replacing it's fine. The MAC address here is correct as per this unit, so that's right. I haven't checked the serial number yet though. I should check that too to make sure that matches as well, in case there's some weirdness going on there. So I'm going to have to reinstall the drive thing. Retain system configuration. Well, let's keep the files and settings. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, we'll base it on that and we'll see if it just does a update. That's fine, I'll just do that and we'll see what happens. This has probably done this because the drive had an older version of DSM on it. My own NAS had a newer version. So obviously the flash has got the newer version of the DSM on it, and the drive has got an older version, so therefore it's noticed there's a disparity between the two, and so now it's going to do this procedure here and fix itself. Hopefully it does a procedure anyway. I'll come back once it's finished, hopefully. Hopefully it finishes. Hopefully it starts. Well, that's not a good start, is it? Can't connect to the internet. That's fine. It is actually capable of working. What it was my network cable fell out the back of the NAS because it's one of these ones which doesn't have a clip on it. The clip's broken off. And with me moving NAS around to check out the serial numbers and stuff, I actually unplugged the network cable. Well, it was dislodged. It was still in the connector but had moved. So once I put that back in again, this was now working again, so yay. Right, it's just about completed. Let's see what happens. Does it work? Does it fail? I'm hoping it works.
One eternity later.
Okay, it's going to restart. Apparently 10 minutes, because it's probably doing a natural installation or something, I don't know. I'll come back once it's done. It's looking promising. You can't really see it there, but we've got a green light. Status light is now green. It's all fixed. So if you like that video, give us a thumbs up, share it to people who think might need to know this, or just generally. Subscribe link over here to subscribe to the channel, and there's a Patreon support link over there. Also, if this helps you, there's a thanks button just down there. If you want to donate to the channel, just do a single one-off, do a thanks, that'll help me too. Catch you later.